Janna DeVylder, and I'm from Meld Studios. We are a design organization based in Sydney, Australia. We also have a studio in Melbourne. Today, I'm going to speak to you about something that is very near to my heart and very exciting for me, which is around services. And so, you'll actually get to hear from two people from Meld Studios. My business partner, Steve, will be speaking after the break about how you can become a service-led organization. And what I'll be talking about is what does it actually mean to be service-led and what is a service, in my mind. Hello again. So let's start by thinking about your day. It's 10 o'clock now, 10:15. Think about all of the services and all of the things, all the products, all of the things that have intersected with our lives just even today. Organizations, all of the places that we work in or we will be working in if you're a student, we have the power, and we have to take that power very cautiously. We are putting things out into the world and we are impacting our own lives. We're impacting my life, your life, the people around us. And so sometimes we think so specifically about what our organizations make and do, and we're very focused on that thing. And sometimes we forget that that one thing is a part of a very big day, a very big week, a very big year, a very long life. It's one of many things that makes up our lives. And so we need to imagine and think about the impact that we have. And because this intersection is so real, we have to be thinking about more than just the singular thing that we're making. We have to think about it in a broader perspective, which is why I think services are a way for us to think about that. So I am a psychologist by trade, but came into design thinking about people and their needs and how they live their lives and how they make decisions, and thinking about then how can we use that knowledge to create things for people. And a lot of times when we talk about design, I'm sure any of us who have had the question of, what do you do? And if you say, I'm a designer, what do you design? Do you make furniture? Do you make objects? Are you a graphic designer? Everybody has a different definition of what design is. And what I like to think about is thinking about that design is a process, and it can be used for many different objects. And organizations, as we heard yesterday, can be an object of design that has its own materiality. Services can have their own, or can be an object of design and has its own materiality. Sometimes we think about materiality as the physical things. And what I'm driven to study now is what are the materials that make up services. And so the way I think about services, I think about them as this coordination. It's a coordinated response to a need, and we have to understand what that need is. Not only from the customer point of view, what is that person's need, but also from the system, also what the organization's needs are. But it's delivered at the right time, at the right place, in the right ways, with the right people, environments, and systems. And so it's this choreography that I see as very, very important when we think about a service. And so Craig and I did not coordinate our conversations with you today, but when Craig said that every organization is a service organization, I was doing the little fist pump, because that opened up my conversation quite nicely with you, which is any organization, I believe,
can be a service organization, but sometimes we don't operate as if we are. And so to the talk we just heard with Megan about some people, some organizations wanting to just focus on the product, and realizing now that to be relevant, we have to think in bigger, broader ways. This is the spirit. So if you make something, if you deliver something, if your customer is a business, if your customer is the consumer, you should think of yourself as a service organization. I had the opportunity to go to a wonderful exhibit in Copenhagen a few years ago, where it was about chairs, and it was about Hans Wegner, and it was about his very, very specific focus on the chair as an object of design. And you saw his renderings, and you saw the different prototypes of different types of chairs and the different uses that they could have, the different materials. And I was really inspired by this, not because I would even know how to design a chair if I had to, but here was a person who was so focused on actually looking at having expertise in the depth of what that thing was. And I thought, what would it look like for us to come into a museum in 40, 50 years to see an exhibit about services? What would that actually look like? What would the materiality be? How would we be talking about it? So I was really inspired by this. Here's some of his drawings. And so when we talk about tangible things, it's easier for us to say, oh, I can see this process and it results in this final outcome. But services can be quite intangible, and you can't hold on to all of the parts of it, and so sometimes it's hard for us to talk about. So I've been working through a bit of a model. It's very rough still, but as a way to think about, to try to give some tangibility to service as a thing, that a service has a bit of a framework to it, and in that framework there are options. There are different things, different levers that you can turn on and off that would make a service be very different. And my goal is not to make a recipe for services. It's not like, follow this recipe and you will have a service. It's a way to start making, giving organizations a shape, a way of thinking about what they should be designing, and to make us think about what our material is in service. Do you remember seeing these books growing up? Where you can flip, if you flip one head, the head changes, the clothes change. So there's options. But in every instance, there's still a head, there's still a body, there's still feet, but there's different mixtures of things. And so that was my inspiration for thinking about frameworks. And so I made my own little flip book, but I made it thinking about two things. When we think about service, we need to think about the experience of a customer, or consumer, or citizen, whomever is receiving the service. That's the top. And at the bottom is the organization's perspective. So if I think about how does a person know about a service, that a service exists? For the organization, they have to think about, what's our proposition? What are we? What do we stand for? What does this mean? How do I, as a customer, then evaluate, is this service right for me? Sometimes I don't have a choice. Sometimes if it's a government service, you give it to me, I have to pay taxes, so I don't have a choice in that. Well, you do have a choice, but there's consequence if you don't choose. But then how do I position it as an organization? The next one, acquire. What do I do to get the service? Do I have to apply? Do I just go and pay? Do I buy? How do I do that? And then as an organization, you have to figure out, how do I give it to you? How do I get it to you? Do I get it to you digitally? Do you have to come into my store? And then we get to use. This is where I think we think we focus a lot of our time on when it comes to products, and sometimes even services. We don't think about how people get to use, but we just think about once they have it, this is what this experience will be. And then as an organization, how do we deliver that? And then you have other instances around, how do I ask for help? Or it's not working quite the way that I think it should be. And this is around that support piece. And then change. What if I want to change the service? What if I want to upgrade or downgrade? Or what if I want more or less? How do I actually change what I'm experiencing? And that can also be, how does an organization change and improve the service that they're delivering? And then in the end, how do we actually design for the closing of an experience? There's a wonderful book out in the past year from Joseph McLeod called Ends, and that's really around designing for that end of product or service experience and what that should be and how that can actually be quite a positive experience and doesn't need to be negative. So these are just some thoughts that I've been playing through then. Once we actually have this framework, how can we help organizations think about the services that they're putting out into the world? So I think about, as an example, we've been working with an organization that's a property development company. They build residential buildings or office buildings. And so they think about their product is the building, and they have to lease that building or sell parts of it to actually get the money. And the question becomes, especially in a very commodified business such as property, it's no longer enough to just build the building and have the box, the rooms, and say, come in and take this, when you have other buildings you can go to. That organization has to reimagine itself and rethink, well, what role are we now playing? Am I just building a building? Or am I enabling businesses to be better because they are my building and not in that building? And so as we talked, as Megan talked before, when you're shifting from product into systems and services, it's a completely different mindset, and it takes a different set of skills inside your organization to be thinking about, well, what would I need to be doing inside our business to be giving more insights and intelligence to the people who are in my building? Do I need to put sensors in the building and then gather that data and interpret it and give it to the businesses who are there so that they can be understanding how healthy and vibrant their business is? Can I be putting in things into their kitchens, and I make sure that there's always tea and coffee there so they don't have to worry about it? Can I build in all of the IT and technology needs so that they can just walk in and start doing business from the first day that they arrive and not have to worry about it? These are all services that you can provide around the product. And those differences are the things that actually differentiate you from your competitors. This is just one example in that flip chart for acquiring. So how do I get the service? Maybe I buy it. Maybe I subscribe to it. Maybe I apply. Maybe I request. Maybe I just get it and just give it to me, or forcefully give it to me. The thing about thinking about the framework is you can start to flip this up and down and start to see, when we think about services, well, what would it look like if we did a subscription model? If we think about the car service we just heard about in San Francisco, what if that was a buy model? What would it look like if you had to apply to drive? Each of these little choices actually help us as organizations to be thinking, oh, there's different ways for me to think about this. And this starts to become the materiality of services. And this is just an example that we've been playing with around, let's imagine it was some sort of service like Evernote or a digital service as an example. How do you find out about it? Well, maybe I know about it on social media. maybe a way for me to evaluate it is I could try it and then I have to pay, or what would it look like if I made you pay from the very beginning, so on and so on. So this just gives you a flavor of how you might be able to use the framework to actually think about what your service is. And in our work, often we are using maps to start to play out the vignettes of experience. It's a way to communicate something that's very intangible, often, which is a service is this joined up experience across time with different people, with different systems. And so what is happening with the customer up at the front, and then what's happening behind the scenes. Because in our work, when we're helping organizations to create services, we have to design their experience inside the organization, as well as the customer's experience outside the organization. So if we don't do both, it will never last. So the question for you is, are you designing services deliberately? Take if you're a manufacturer and you create, you make things that you then sell on to other businesses, they then sell on, or they integrate into their products. The thing is that you're not just making something and selling it. There's things that you can be doing to be helping that business to be better because they're buying your product rather than somebody else's. And it's taking the time to be deliberate about that. This is one of my favorite examples of this, is GE. And this may be a story you've heard time and time again, and hopefully I can give you a different angle of it. So Doug Dietz was an industrial designer, engineer. He worked at GE. They made the new MRI machines. This has been a few years ago now. They had already started winning awards, technical excellence with this beautiful MRI machine and its oval system of machines that they were putting into hospitals. He was having the opportunity to go to the hospital, to go to a hospital for the first time to see it in action, to see it live. So he comes in, he's talking to the nurse, or the nurse who was waiting for a child to come with her parents because she was going to be having an MRI that day. The parents and the child are walking down the hallway, really nervous. The child is crying already. Doug sees the nurse already go to the wall to get the phone, and he says, "Who are you calling?" She said, "I'm calling to get sedation, that we can put the child to sleep, because if the child is nervous, we won't be able to actually, it'll be very hard for us, it'll take us a long time to get the child to actually calm down, to be in the MRI, because you have to be very still. If you've ever had an MRI, it's very, very loud, it's very tight, you can't move, you're not supposed to move." And Doug, the designer, was shocked. He came to the hospital thinking, we have created this thing of beauty, this technical excellence, and yet we have failed. We have missed the mark. We have actually not succeeded in creating a successful product because we didn't think about the service all around it. And so the question then became, how can we make it easier for healthcare workers to actually take children through this process? And how do we actually make the experience pleasant, even fun, maybe, for a child? They thought about what they were solving for and what their mission was in a very different way. It wasn't just to create the most technical, best-in-class machine. It was around creating that service and that experience. And so after the fact, they start studying children. How do children behave? What's important? What are the different stages of child development? What does it mean to play? They started to understand healthcare and the relationship between physicians and parents and children and what that dynamic is, and how does that play out outside of the room before you even get to the MRI. They started to look at other models, other people who have expertise in child development and different models of care and connection and relationship. In order for Doug and GE to meet their mark, they were experts in what they did. They were very much experts in the design of that product. They didn't need to be experts in everything. They needed to reach out to get expertise from all of us, from all the different angles, to actually create a system that worked. This is where they ended up. What they ended up doing after all of this was they created an experience around the MRI. And the product was in the middle of this service, but it wasn't the focus of the service. It was a part of this. The experience of getting an MRI started weeks before with the physicians at the doctor's office. Little Sally, you are going to go on an adventure. There was different styles that they made in these rooms. One of them, my favorite one, is the rocket ship. You are going on an adventure. When you go to the hospital in 2 weeks' time, you are going on a rocket ship. And it's a big mission, and we need you to be ready for it. Are you ready for it? I'm ready. So already they're actually getting excited about having an MRI. As an adult having an MRI, nobody made me excited about it, and I wish they did. And I love this quote from a parent. Like, it was fun, even. The whole experience was fun. It's important for us to then break this down to say, sometimes we think, well, why is it worth the effort for us to think about this as a service? And why is it worth the effort for us to get different expertise into our organizations to make this better? It is a competitive advantage for you to do this. And it doesn't have to be expensive to do this. In fact, you're probably going to increase your risk and increase your confidence that you're making the right things and you're putting them out into the world and you're going to hit the mark. And so for customers, from the customer perspective, the patient being the child and the parents, it was calmer for everybody. It was a decrease in stress, increase in trust. I'm able to go through the procedure in the time that was needed. I didn't have to be sedated as a child. It's good business for GE. They then had this package that they could actually deliver. And when you're competing with other organizations who are also making MRIs, and a hospital is trying to decide, why should I take your MRI over your MRI? It becomes a no-brainer. I might pay a little bit more for your MRI, GE, but because I pay more, I'm getting this whole service that I can suddenly deliver to my patients. And that means patients will want to come to my hospital, not to the hospital down the block. It makes a difference. More sales, the brand standing, the fact that I'm telling you the story of GE, and this story gets told again and again. It means something, it's meaningful. It's an organization understanding the impact it's having on lives. And it's the decrease in the technical excellence, missing the mark because you're not connecting with the human experience of that technology. And from the hospital, it's a competitive advantage. The time per procedure, they could get more people through the process, which means that's better for business. And the satisfaction of the staff member who is actually having to do this with a child. Nobody wants to put the child to sleep to go through a procedure. It doesn't feel good from my job perspective. This helps them to actually work better and to have a better experience as an employee. And this is really, really important. Everybody is, when we think about human experience and we think about designing being human-centered, it's not just customer-centered, it's every human that's in this picture we're thinking about.
actually, that GE had done this from the beginning. If they better understood the people, they better understood the situations that the MRI would be in, they could have actually designed this whole process in a very different way. If you think about what Megan said about how they framed the problem from not just being about the convertible, but to being about the city. This shows you the importance of framing what you're solving for and how important it is that whatever you frame the problem as, that's the solution you're going to get. It's going to be very focused and very narrow. And it's opening up the possibility that, you know what, maybe we are going to create helmets. Maybe that's not our expertise, but maybe that becomes a new opportunity for us as a business, that we're more than just the singular product that we started with. We actually are creating diversification in our business, and there's more meaning with what we're doing. We're connecting more with what people need, what the community needs, and our standing in our communities can change. That's all. Thank you so much for your time.